Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCapped. In this guide, we'll be breaking down the best pro CYPHER setups for defense on split, as well as his attack cameras, cage lineups, and tripwires. This guide will quite literally have everything you could possibly need to dominate split with CYPHER. Now, the setups you'll find in this video aren't just one person's opinion, but the accumulation of countless hours of research from the top CYPHER pros. So enough hype, let's jump straight into it, starting with CYPHER's best setup for B site on split. To begin with, we have by far the best camera spot for B site. There's no other camera spot that even comes close to this one in terms of power. From B heaven, head to rafters and go to the edge of this brown box. Now, you'll be placing the camera on the top of the ledge at the roof of this building. However, you'll notice that it's red, meaning you can't place it there. One trick every CYPHER player must know is the trick to getting max height on your camera. First, while standing still, aim your camera as high as you can while it's still highlighted blue. This will mark the max height you can place your camera. Then, simply jump and left click to place your camera at the peak of your jump. This is how you can place your camera at the maximum height every single time. Now, this camera is so valuable as not only does it look into B main, but also into B heaven, completely covering all of the entrances into B site. However, the real strength is that it functions similar to a one-way smoke, where you'll be able to see the enemy in B main with your camera, while they won't be able to see it to shoot and destroy it. For this reason, it's very important that you memorize the grate in B main. This is because when an enemy's foot touches the grate, it means they can see your camera and shoot it. So as long as the enemy's feet is behind the grate, you can be certain you can see them, but they can't see you. Next, we have CYPHER's cage, which on B site will be a one-way smoke, and honestly, one of the main reasons CYPHER is so strong on split. You want to walk into this door on the wall, then simply aim to the left of this wooden beam and release your cage. If you're having trouble landing this, you can move slightly to the right while aiming at the same spot, and you'll find it more consistently lands. This one-way cage is insane, as it allows you to see the enemy's feet while they won't be able to see you. And lastly, we have your tripwire, which you want to place on this trash can, as it will be extremely hard for the enemy to shoot and destroy, since they'll have to actually move into B site and be exposed to multiple angles. It also just catches a lot of players off guard. With this camera, cage, and tripwire setup, you'll look for this very standard kill. Playing behind the pillar, you want to be ready to swing fast when your tripwire activates. When it does, activate your cage into then killing the enemy revealed by your tripwire. An even more advanced way of getting kills with this setup is using the camera and your cage. Once you spot enemies with your camera, wait for them to get close to the grate, then activate your cage and swing. You'll know their location as well as being able to see their feet, so you can get easy kills without them being able to fire back. With all this being said, you do need to be aware of a couple downsides to the tripwire on the trash can, and you will have to know some alternative tripwire locations when you're being countered. For example, a raised boombot can activate it and destroy it. When this happens, simply move your tripwire to this standard location, as it will be high enough to avoid being triggered by a boombot. Also, make sure when you place tripwires that you crouch and aim the beam so that it's hitting your agent's forehead. This is the sweet spot that prevents enemies from both jumping over it or ducking under it. Still, this tripwire location, along with the trash can one, can be destroyed by AoE abilities like Raze's Satchel, Grenade, Sova Shock Arrows, etc. Also, jet players can counter both of these tripwire locations by simply dashing through them. When this is happening to you, you want to place your tripwire here. Now, there is a weakness to this tripwire in that an enemy can get a default plant off if they hug the wall, as they won't activate the tripwire, but it's very unlikely someone will be that precise with their movement. If you are placing this tripwire, you can also consider placing your second cage below it. This will allow you to play a further back position, and when an enemy activates the tripwire, you can then activate your cage into peeking and getting some free kills. Another similar tripwire is here at the default plant spot. Again, you'll want to place a cage here so that the enemy's teammates can't shoot back at you when you peek off the activation. Same idea, hide, wait for the enemy to trip the wire, activate the cage, and swing into a free kill. Great, so we have B main on lockdown with our default setup, but we still have a cage and tripwire left. You'll want to place these in B heaven. It's actually a very simple setup. Place your tripwire and cage against the barrier at the start of the round. Now, the tripwire doesn't have to be against the barrier, you can move it closer to the exit into B heaven. However, the cage always needs to be against the barrier. This is because if you place the cage too far away, it will cause your cage's smoke to push too far into B heaven and give the opponent the option of hugging the far left to get into B heaven and catch you and your teammates off guard. Fantastic, so you have your B site set up, but the question still remains, where exactly should you be positioned? You have 4 spots you want to alternate between. The first is the most standard, behind the pillar, ready to swing on any enemies coming from B main. The second spot is to the left of pillar. You use this if you're getting pre-naded or pushed off the previous spot, or it's too risky to peek it. Think of it as your backup plan. The third spot is the riskiest of all of them, but can also catch opponents off guard, and that's back of sight. This allows you to swing from a more unpredictable angle, but the downside is you have no retreat path and the wall in front of you can be wallbanged. This should only be used sparingly if the enemy is shutting you down at your other spots. And lastly, we have our final spot on top of rafters. This will give you less control over stopping enemies from the B main push, but as a trade-off, gives you more control over pushes into B heaven. You'll want to play this spot if your teammates who are playing B heaven are constantly losing control of that area and the enemy is successfully taking B by going through B heaven. So to summarize, the best B site setup is to place one tripwire and one cage at the entrance to B heaven, place your camera here at the top of the roof, and then place your one-way cage here and a tripwire on the trash can, then play from this default spot behind pillar. And before we jump into A-Site's best setups, if you're serious about improving, then head to SkillCapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system. We have up-to-date lineups for agents, courses on all the mechanics needed to win more gunfights, Smurf commentaries where a high-ranked player walks you through how to carry in your rank, and so much more. Come join over 500,000 satisfied members of SkillCapped, improve that KDA, and get the rank you've always wanted at SkillCapped.com, link in the description below. Alright, heading into Cypher's best pro setups for a site, starting with his camera placements. By far, the best camera spot is right here, as not only can you place it before the barrier drops, it actually lets you get super deep early intel into the enemy's starting location. To place this camera, you want to walk to the window in A heaven, move to the side just a little until you can see this edge of the wall. Aim down until the camera turns blue so you're at the maximum height, then jump and place your camera at the peak of your jump. From here, turn the camera all the way to the right so you can get that super valuable early intel. This camera is basically just a better version of a really bad camera a lot of players mistakenly use, where they wait for the barrier to drop, then place their camera on this billboard. This will just get shot and destroyed at the start of the round before you can even activate it and get any early intel. Now, if the opponents are catching on to this camera location and destroying it, you have a couple of backup camera spots you should be aware of. First is right here on the edge of this corner of the wall. This scouts both the cross at A lobby as well as into A heaven, going so far as to see any enemies rotating to or from rope room. If this camera is being destroyed as well, then you can place one on the edge of this wall instead. This will hold more of a sliver of the cross into ramps, so less likely to be spotted by the enemy there, and it still does see into A heaven, but you won't be able to see the rope room rotate. And lastly, we have the safest, but also the most passive camera, aim here on the wall and jump for maximum height placement. This camera will let you tag enemies pushing into sight, and it is rarely spotted, but you give up so much early intel so it should only be used as a last resort. Next up, we have your first cage, which is a one-way smoke that not a lot of players actually know how to do. Walk to A heaven's window, move against it, then aim your crosshair at the letter K in the distance, release your cage, and you'll have your one-way smoke. It's important to note that this one-way cage is really just a setup for when you're playing at A heaven or the window area. This is because if you play on the ground in sight, it won't actually be that effective of a one-way because the enemy can see you and shoot back in a lot of different locations. Moving on to your first tripwire, it's really simple, just place it near the barrier at the start of the round. Now, with this setup, you can play from A heaven, wait for the enemy to hit the tripwire, activate your one-way into spraying them down. Moving on, your second tripwire goes here at the top of ramp, make sure to crouch and place it at your forehead level as normal so the enemy can't jump over it or crouch under. And for your second cage, you want to make sure to place it a bit further out of the entrance. This way, when you do activate the cage, as soon as they try to rush into A heaven, you'll be able to see them. So this is the best setup for a site. First tripwire here, first cage here, then place your camera here, next is your tripwire, and finally your one-way smoke once the barrier drops, then activate your camera to scout for early intel while you play from A heaven. So now that you know the best setups for both sites, the question remains, which one is better for Cypher to play at? The answer is definitely B site. You simply have the strongest setups there that will allow you to solo lock down the site by yourself. This will allow your team to only play one person on B site, you on Cypher, and stack other players elsewhere. With that being said, don't make that super common mistake of only playing B site no matter what. If your teammates are losing A site repeatedly and the enemy simply isn't coming B, then you need to be willing to swap with a teammate and play the A site setup. Now, you'll find that most guides will stop here when it comes to Cypher setups, but honestly, one of the toughest aspects of playing Cypher is utilizing him effectively on attack. This is why we've made the extra effort to break down exactly how to use his tripwires, cages, and cameras on the attack side on Split. This is information you simply won't find anywhere else, so you definitely want to watch until the end. First, let's cover his tripwire locations on attack. To cover the flank from a site, you have a very simple tripwire to place here against the barrier. Now, sometimes this gets destroyed by AoE abilities, such as an enemy raise pre-nading this location. When this happens, you'll want to move your tripwire to cover the entrance to sewers. Yes, this will leave a flank path open to your spawn, but on Split, this really doesn't matter due to the fact that the flank through spawn is super time consuming and ineffective. It's the flank through sewers to mid that you need to be most concerned about. Next, we have the tripwires to cover your flank from B site. Here, it gets a bit trickier. If you try to just place a standard tripwire near the barrier at the start of the round, then the enemy can simply jump up on this protruding box to get past it without you knowing. Because of this, our recommendation is to wait for the barrier to drop and then place your tripwire at the B main entrance. Sometimes though, you can't wait until the barrier drops. If that's the case, then your best alternative is to place a tripwire here. This will stop the enemy's B player from pushing out and flanking mid. However, it doesn't stop a mid player from pushing through and flanking B main, as they can jump over it using these boxes. In general, you want to place your tripwire to cover the flank on whichever site you're going to attack. If you're going to attack A site, place the standard A tripwire. If you're going to attack B site, wait for the barrier to drop and place the standard B tripwire. This will prevent enemies from flanking you from behind as you push into site. The one exception though is when you're going for mid control. When this is the case, you want to place both tripwires to cover both flanks so you can pressure mid safely. Moving on, we have cage lineups, and honestly, these are some of the most powerful and underrated aspects of playing Cypher and will definitely increase your win rate with him. First is a simple cage to smoke off ramp for an A site take. Follow this green line until you're against the wall. Then aim at the first light here and release your cage. This will completely block off vision for the enemy playing on ramp. The next lineup is much more difficult, but also insanely valuable to have for when you take A site. You want to position yourself on the left side of this line on the ground. Then aim your crosshair right here. Some good points of reference are the white pillar below it, along with the second floor blue line. Or you can think of aiming on the second floor blue line and in the middle of the gray left pillar and the white line on the glass. From here, run forward, and as soon as your crosshair touches this dark part of the wall, jump and release your cage at the peak of the jump. This will completely smoke off A heaven for you, making it much safer to enter sight. Keep in mind that to use these cages, you need to clear your angles first. Here's an example of what it would look like in a real game situation. First, clearing the angle in case an enemy pushes at the start of the round, then going for the ramp lineup. Now, while our ramp smoke is activated, we clear all angles that can see us when we go for the A heaven window lineup. From here, you can then move into sight. These lineups are super useful when you either don't have another smoke agent like Brimstone or Omen on your team, or to use in conjunction with their smokes. Moving on, we have lineups for the middle of the map, which thankfully are much easier to pull off. All of them will start from the same location, against the wall here near sewers on the right side of mid. Then look at the edge of this corner and move forward until it's touching the top of the boxes in front of you. You can then simply release your cage. Don't worry, your cage will actually go through this box even though it looks like it would get stuck on it. This will smoke off fence, which is essentially mandatory in order to push in and take control of mid. The second cage lineup comes from the exact same location. Instead, you want to aim at the corner of where these two boxes meet. This will smoke off mailroom and B heaven, very useful for a push into vents. And if you really want, you can actually just throw both of these cages at the start of the round. Either activating both to just get complete mid control, or activating one, using that to get mid control, and then saving the other one for once you go for a push. And for our last cage lineup, we have B site. Now, there's only one good cage lineup, but it's one every Cypher main needs to have memorized. You see, once you go for a push into B site, a lot of Cyphers will throw their cage here to block off vision of enemies in B heaven. This is very similar to Sage's wall strategy, where you use your wall to accomplish the same push. Here's the problem though, if you just throw your cage, you will almost always create small gaps the B heaven players will be able to see through. To avoid this, use this lineup instead. Move against the left wall. Then move forward against it until you see this bright orange light. Line up the edge of the corner with the edge of this paper on the wall. Next, you'll see a line from a brick in the wall. Put your crosshair so it's slightly above this line and above the orange light. This will give you a pixel-perfect cage that has absolutely no gaps the enemy can see through. And finally, we have one of Cypher's biggest strengths on attack, his camera. Using his camera on attack lets you both clear angles safely without having to peek, while also giving you the potential to land a dart on an opponent, forcing them to back off the angle in order to remove it. First is your attack camera for a site. There is only one camera you want to use, and it's absolutely god tier. Jump up on this box at the start of the round, aim at the middle bottom of this gray piece of wall. Then jump and release your camera at the peak of the jump. This allows you to scout ramp, A heaven window, and any early pushes into A main. By far the most useful camera location when attacking a site. Keep in mind though, it won't spot enemies playing to the right on rafters, so you'll still need to clear that angle when you push into a site. Moving on, we have our cameras for middle. There's one trick to remembering this location: the tree is the key. All camera locations stem from this tree in middle. By placing your camera on the leftmost edge of the tree, you'll be able to clear both some of vents, but most importantly, any enemies holding an angle in mailroom. The second camera location is good if the enemy isn't playing the mailroom angle. Line up the edge of the boxes with this banner on the wall. Then move forward until the top of the boxes are touching the bottom of this light. From here, simply jump and release the camera at the peak of your jump. This will scout deep into B heaven, the left side of vents, but the real point is it spots any enemies hiding behind the box, even if they're crouching. The other camera you should be aware of is pretty simple, it's just placing it inside of vents. The main purpose of this camera is to clear out any close angle someone might be holding with a shotgun or to try and catch you off guard. However, one of the most valuable cameras is the B heaven camera, as this location is where many pushes will go to die. Go into mailroom and aim between the edge of the left wall and the light. Then aim the camera as high as it can go, jump, and place it at the peak of the jump. This will spot enemies holding the rafters angle and any enemies hiding behind the box, along with a decent amount of the stairs angle. Do keep in mind though, players can still play this off angle at the top of stairs, so you'll need to clear that angle when you push in. Moving on to B site, a good camera can be just placing one here as soon as the barrier drops, making sure to peek and go for a quick release into hiding back behind cover. This can spot enemies looking for an early peek into B main, or any enemies playing at the default spot near pillar. The other camera is useful if you aren't getting aggro peeked B main at the start of the round. Place it at the topmost edge of the left corner. It spots deeper behind pillar and into B heaven. That being said, I much prefer this camera location. It will spot anyone trying to cheese you behind the boxes or on top of them, as well as gives you full view behind pillar and rafters. Just keep in mind when you place the camera, you need to immediately get behind cover so you're safe when you activate it. And lastly, when it comes to CYPHER's camera, make sure that you pick them back up once you've cleared an angle on attack. This is because CYPHER's camera is insanely strong at preventing a defuse in a post-plant scenario. This is either by itself or with a cage placed on top of the bomb. It will allow you to basically just hide in a location, wait for them to tap the bomb, activate your camera to hit them with the dart, and activate your cage into then spraying them down. It will buy you a lot of time as they have to run to safety and remove the dart if they don't just outright die. On top of which, you'll often still have your camera alive to activate again once they get back onto the bomb. Alright, remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out SkillCapped.com, link in the description below. We put a ton of effort into this video to make sure it was the best, most definitive guide for CYPHER setups and lineups for Split. So make sure to show your support by liking, subscribing, and hitting that bell icon to get more premium guides just like this one, with one goal in mind: helping you become a better player. And we'd love to hear your opinion on what you think CYPHER's strongest map is. Let us know in the comment section below. We here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.